So if we're going to talk about, Andrew's usefulness to Jeffrey, then in proper context, there's a variety of theories as to what Jeffrey was up to. He's part of a network versus he was a lone wolf. Where do you lie with all the theories about what Jeffrey was doing?
Well, I don't think he was a lone wolf. I mean, I think he certainly operated within networks. And I think that's beginning to emerge. And I think it's one of the reasons why people are so nervous now and so keen to suppress these Epstein files. I know it was a bigger operation than people realize, because no one has been able to explain how Epstein rose so quickly, how he was given Lex Wexner's wealth to do with as he wished. He was given the house, given power of attorney, all the contacts he had. I mean, he was a nobody who suddenly emerged as this extraordinary figure. So, there are lots of unanswered questions, and I don't think we can just say he was a smart guy with finance who had some useful mentors. And it's very interesting that Les Wexner has never spoken. And lots of people very closely involved with the tale haven't spoken. So, there's lots still to come out. I mean, whether it will come out is a moot point. I think it's a shame that these Epstein files, couldn't be released. There's an attempt clearly to save Trump's skin and to point the finger at Clinton, because clearly lots of people were involved. And it'd be fascinating to see, for example, how involved Sarah Ferguson is in all this. How often she saw him and when she saw him and how much money he gave her, etc.
Do you know how she originally got into debt with him?
Well, I don't think she got into debt with Epstein. She got into debt with members of her staff who she hadn't paid, a guy called Johnny O'Sullivan, who was based in New York. I think Kate Waddington, her PR person, hadn't also been paid. But she, these were debts that she had to lots and lots of people. And Epstein was kind of the banker being brought in as her solution to these problems. And she had this extraordinary attitude that she could do as she wanted. If people lent her money, she assumed it was a gift, that she didn't need to pay bills. She would walk out of hotels and with huge room service bills and not pay them. Her publishers I talked to had put her up in a very swanky hotel. They paid for the hotel, but they expected her to pay for room service and the bar bill, which they said was in the end came to more than the cost of the room. So she just takes advantage. She's a complete, ligger.
I remember that undercover sting, like a media sting, where she was trying to sell access to Andrew. Do you remember that?
Yep. Yes, May 2010. It was, I think, £500,000. She walked away with $40,000. All filmed. She denied it, but and tried to sue the News of the World, and then gave up when they showed that they'd taped everything and had her banged to rights. But of course, the reason they were taping her was because they'd heard that she was doing this. This wasn't a first isolated incident. She and Andrew, and she, of course, Andrew denied having any involvement, had been doing this, before. So, this corruption goes way, way back.
Perhaps that's why she's back with him, so she could reestablish that scam.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why she's never really left him, because that's her calling card. She's nothing without Andrew, and of course this was a great concern to Elizabeth and Philip, that her son couldn't move on while she clung limpet-like to him, and not only did she get the free accommodation and the chef and everything else, the great lifestyle, but she was able to go to family events. I mean, it's extraordinary. They divorced in 1996, and there she is in the Royal Box at Wimbledon. There she is walking to church. It's extraordinary, particularly given the scandals around her. It's not just News of the World. There have been a series of court cases where she's not been able to explain large sums of money put into her bank accounts from people that she hardly knows, and these have never really been properly investigated. So, big questions hang over this couple.
Yeah, so a lot of people, wonder about the origin of Prince Andrew meeting Epstein then. So just in summary then, so Fergie's dysfunctional finances led her owing a lot of people money. And then you said Jeffrey fixed that situation for her. And then in exchange, she introduced Andrew to Jeffrey. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the introduction was there, and I think that they probably thought that he would be a useful person to pay her bills. But I think there were all sorts of other perks. I mean, they were often staying at his houses, and they continued to stay at his houses long after 2010, when they'd said they'd broken off contact. But I think, once they were in there, they realized that they could milk this guy. And he, of course, was happy to oblige. He put them in some form of sort of obligation to him. And that's what he wanted. And as we know, he was blackmailing all sorts of people. He was trading information. And they'd sort of walked into his trap.
So what year approximately did Jeffrey and Andrew start pallying up?
Well, as I say, the date seems to be 1991. We don't have a great deal of evidence of what they were doing at that point. Andrew was still in the Navy, but he had very long shore leaves. I mean, he was off, for example, in Kazakhstan doing business in 1994. So, that again needs more research. But that period of both Andrew's life is pretty opaque. And also that's the case with Epstein as well.
So how long did that relationship last?
Well, the relationship between Andrew and Epstein lasted till the day Epstein died. I don't think they were. We know from the depositions in the Barclays case and with Jess Slaley and others that they were still doing business together. They were still communicating and meeting. So I don't think anything changed after 2010. It went on and on and on until the death in the correctional facility.
So that's quite a long period of time then. Could we go over it chronologically and just look at the most notable moments? What would you say would be the first most notable moment?
Well, we have 1999, when he's the first recording of Andrew on the Lolita flight going out to the island. I think that's important. We have clearly the famous episode December 2010, when he's photographed going to say goodbye to Epstein. He's photographed in the park, where, of course, set up by Epstein, walking in Central Park. And it's from that moment also that we have him waving goodbye to Catherine Keating in a very affectionate way through the door. So I think those are the two key points. But then, of course, we have all the other episodes, 2008, 2009, when Epstein is serving his correctional sentence, his very open sentence. And he was out basically, either in his office or actually even being able to go to his home and travel. We were trying to get a sense of what he was doing with Andrew then. The problem is we have the flight logs, not all the flight logs. We have testimony from some people, like, for example, Virginia Giuffre in the famous meeting in March 2001, when she claims that he first slept with her, and that relationship, if you can call it that, took place in that spring. We have accounts from other people seeing Andrew on the island at later dates. But there's still a lot of information that we need to fill in there.
Yeah, so I'm keep going. I'm just going to change my battery. Looking at Virginia's allegations then, and we've got to be careful with our language here. We've got the third allegation on the island. Are you familiar with what she said about Prince Andrew?
Yes. I mean, clearly that has been challenged by lots of people. It's I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on this. She's working with a ghostwriter. Things are being bigged up to sell for a book. She's a traumatized girl who, perhaps over eggs the pudding at times. But generally, she's been pretty consistent. And my experience with the material I've been able to corroborate is that her story sticks. So we know that Andrew was on the island. I mean, there are people talking about her grinding away with Virginia Giuffre on the island, Steve Scully, for example. So, I'm inclined to believe her. No one has provided any proper evidence disproving it. I mean, they mock it, they try and discredit the photo, but I've seen no evidence that shows the photo isn't actually completely genuine, and that she had these three episodes. Whether they were one-to-one with Andrew or part of an orgy is another question. But the problem is most of these girls were young girls from Russia and elsewhere, bust in and flown in and flown out. No one knows where they are, probably married with children. The last thing they want to do, even if they were traced, is to go public. They've signed NDAs. There's no reason for them to come forward. There are lots and lots of people, I think, who are very happy to keep the story under wraps.
Yeah, and Virginia said that Jeffrey and Ghislaine and Andrew and John Luke were joking that those girls couldn't even speak any English, and they were the easiest ones to get away with doing these things to, because they didn't even speak any English.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these were very vulnerable young girls, and it's just cynical the way that they operated. And, one of the things I found from talking to Laura Burns, who was the researcher on this Panorama program, and she got a lot of really interesting stuff, is, she has emails with Ghislaine and Andrew discussing Virginia, the woman that they claim never to have met, and how they would deal with her. And PR firms were brought in to try and discredit her, and some of those PR firms still continue to spread their poison now.
So you've got Prince Andrew saying he doesn't recall Virginia, that the photos are fake. Lady Victoria Hervey managed to pretend to be interested in the property and get in there and do this crazy thing where she said that they wouldn't even fit by the banister. I mean, what do you make of all of these attempts to debunk Virginia's claims about the photo?
Well, these are people who I understand are in the pay of people who are promoting Andrew and Ghislaine. So I don't take anything they say seriously whatsoever. There's no evidence to support that the photo was faked, and they haven't been able to provide any.
And the payout that came, what do you think was the basis that Andrew was told to make that payout?
Well, I mean, the excuse is that it was to shut the story down and not overshadow the Jubilee. But he basically didn't want to go into court where there would be depositions, and it was easier to settle it and draw a line under it and not have to go through any of the legal process, which might have brought out all sorts of other things. So it was the least worst option, damage limitation.
Have you thought about why someone in his position would, do something like that to Virginia, when he's got children of his own and he's so high profile? Is it arrogance, ego? He just thinks he can get away with anything, elite deviance? What would you say made him engage in these behaviors and even go back to Epstein after his conviction?
Well, I mean, most of those things. I mean, the fact that he, his libido for a start, and I think the sense that he felt he was invincible, that he was protected, that the protection officers wouldn't say anything. The diplomatic staff who saw this stuff going on, he would actually borrow the New York consulate's car to go off on these assignations. That none of the people would break rank and say anything, and so he could do exactly what he wanted. And as you say, these were girls who weren't going to be in a position to do anything or put any pressure on him. And I think he's naive. He kind of thought that Epstein was his friend, and I don't think Epstein was. He was using him.
Because Paul Page went into detail with us as to the logistics of the information they would have ascertained about Epstein, and the Americans would have had information, and there would have been a discussion, and they would have advised Prince Andrew not to go and see him, and Prince Andrew would have had to have overrode that decision to continue to go see him.
Absolutely. I mean, I hear that story time and time again with all sorts of people warned not to have contact. Fergie was warned not to have contact with Steve Wyatt because of his intelligence links with the foreign powers, and she just ignored it. So, and this is, why did you do the Newsnight interview when everyone told him not to do it? Because he thinks he knows better. And one of the themes of the book is the rules don't apply to Andrew. So he'll use his mobile in a place where he's been told not to use his mobile. He'll do traffic things where he's not allowed to do traffic things. he didn't go to the roll call at Gordonston like all the other pupils because he didn't think he was too important to go to roll call. That's him.
So what do you think when Andrew said that he went to Jeffrey's to sever the friendship and it was a dutiful, honourable thing for him to do?
Well, I mean, it's a ridiculous statement, and I mean, people, as you say, pointed out almost immediately. You don't go 5 days to someone to say goodbye. You don't have dinner parties thrown in your honour. You don't go and stay with someone when there are plenty of hotels around the corner, including the use of the New York consulate. It's just a brazen lie, and that seems to be what he does. He doesn't sort of realise just how stupid he is.